Now, say my name.
The Rolling Bad Podcast.
You're goddamn right.
Coming to you almost live from an Everwinter camp on the steppes of Antor in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, it's the Rolling Bad Podcast. This is episode number 150. Who'da thunk it?
Oh, man.
Yeah. It is July 23rd, and I'm your host, Bill. Damn it, my trees hate snow. Why do we have to be in snow? Costello, with me today.
All the way from the bitter lands, it's Joshua putting the whore in hoarfrost alt.
I was going to say, wait a minute, the Bitterland, you said you were going to be a whore. Oh, Lord.
Oh, goodness.
I do love that, putting the whore in hoarfrost. Wow.
Oh, yeah. Whether it's to hit, to wound, or rend, I'm adding just a little bit to everything.
Oh, my God. Oh, when we get to that, you're just going to hear me gush. Holy crap. This book is broken. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, foreshadowing, we're going to be covering the General's Handbook Pitched Battles 2023-24. So, this is a year-long GHB in the big change. I guess they don't want to do, and it makes a lot of sense. They're going to roll out another edition next year, summerish time frame probably. You don't want to have a General's Handbook come out and then immediately be revoked by the new edition. So makes sense to use this one a year.
It definitely does. I mean, at this point, we have only 2 Army books left to drop.
Yep.
Cities of Sigmar, we've been getting all that gloriousness, and then it's going to be, the Carry On King in the winter. So.
Yeah. So that's going to be an interesting box set.
Yeah.
I think, we're presupposing here, but you got to figure that box set will probably be Cities of Sigmar and Flesh Eaters. The places they can go with just those two, that mix is so much fun.
It is. It is. Yeah. So, General's Handbook, like we couldn't get to it last time. So it's, it has a lot of stuff for us to cover today. So that's good. And there's some, predictions that Bill has for what could be upcoming too.
Yeah.
So we're getting into that, but, because it is the, landmark episode 150, we will have a contest at the end of the show.
Yes, we will.
So,
I got a prize pool sitting on the desk here. So,
yeah.
And that's only part of it. So
we'll get into all of that after we go through everything else. But stay tuned for how to put your name in and potentially get some pretty cool prizes that we'll cover later.
Yeah, and if you're a Patreon, make sure you listen to the After Dark, because that's where we're going to talk about the prizes for the Patreons.
Yes.
So I do want to make a note on episode 150. Supposed to, I guess, make a big deal out of it, but I don't know. I don't really track things like that so much. But I do want to shout out to, people like James Tapia and Elric and, everybody that came before you, Josh, for keeping it going and helping out and just being a part of the show for this long. It boggles my mind when I look back and realize I've been doing this for 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, just want to shout out those guys for, helping out and doing everything and keeping the show going and making it a fun time. I've always had a good time doing the show. That's why I do it, because it's fun. And I love to talk about this game because it's a blast.
Oh, yeah.
And there's almost, we always talk about struggling for content, but quite literally, there's never a lack for stuff going on in the world of Age of Sigmar. It's crazy. Just ask Rob Symes and everybody else that creates content for AOS. It's super easy. And I do love it. So, okay. So, shall we move on to New Dawn?
Let's do it.
All righty then. So yesterday's pre-orders were, I don't want to say underwhelming because of the Necromunda stuff that came out, because that's huge. But honestly, for the main 2 games, you got Minka Lensk for $40K.
Which is awesome. She's an iconic character.
Yeah, definitely. And I love the books, and I ordered the model, of course. And the banner for the Tanith, I ordered me one of those for damn sure. But honestly, other than I was going to let you cover the Necromunda stuff that pre-ordered yesterday, because that's your avenue.
Yeah, so Necromunda, we got, thank God, the new core rulebook.
Yeah.
Because if you know anything about Necromunda, because you probably have tomes, entire bookshelves devoted to the content.
Oh, yeah.
because every time they release something, it may have a new rule or an explanation for a rule you weren't sure about in your army, or if like they released it in a previous book, they don't actually name it in the book that you get for your house, and so you have to go find the other book. So they're consolidating a lot of standard information. The house specific stuff, as far as I understand, is not in there. Major benefit is, again, not having to search through sometimes 4 to 5 books in the middle of a single game just to find what rules your weapon has.
Yeah,
right?
I know. Yeah.
Being able to consolidate all the stuff in there, like the trading post and the black market are all consolidated in the new book, so you don't have to find the House of Justice book or the House of Ruin book or anything like that. It's all consolidated in there, along with the development process, post game, that kind of stuff. So it's a huge boon to Necromunda players. Something we've all been craving forever. Like I keep the books digital. Because I don't want to carry around 50 pounds of paper.
Sure.
That I have to hunt through, because I can just go to the book it's in, search the keyword, find it. Awesome, right? But it's still a pain. Like, it's still a pain. All right, close this one. I think this one is in this book. Let me open. No, it's not in that book. Hold on, let me open this book. That's the feeling of what Necromunda was. Now they're consolidating. Re-releasing the standard gang cards. Absolutely fantastic. What I was most impressed with, other than the consolidation of the rules, was the card sleeves. That's why, I mean, the Necromunda players out there, some of them are pretty loud, but there's a lot that aren't. And so it was absolutely no surprise to me that everything was sold out literally at 11 o'clock.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's no surprise whatsoever. They're all going to be standard stock items from what I understand, though, because they are the core universal items that any gang or any player would need access to. So, like, the initial run, I could see that selling out, but it's going to come back. This is not going to be a one-time thing,
No.
Which I'm very, very grateful for. It's quality of life. The only other thing that we can ask for as Necromunda players is an app specific to Necromunda. Yeah, because we generally have to use like Yak Tribe and stuff like that, which it's good, right? But it'd be so great to have something that just internally operates in such a way that you can make your starting gang. It makes sense how you do it through the user interface, and then you have the development process after mass sequencing. So I think, and it would keep track of your injuries and all that stuff, so you wouldn't be printing paper and marking. It might take a little bit of that tabletop RPG aspect away from it, but I wouldn't mind having it located in a single place.
It just, those kind of quality of life things are so big, and unfortunately they're so hard to work up that you have to have someone that's just really into it to do it. I hope they find that guy or gal, whoever.
Yeah, or they got to pay him enough money.
Well, that's another thing. They're notorious for not wanting to pony up for that sort of, that doesn't fit the core. We sell models.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, there was the one time they did for Azir, the previous AOS app.
Yeah, they brought Tony on.
I freaking love that app. That app was so good. And I mean, they did go to a different kind of, model where you buy the book and then put the code in and get access. Whereas what I loved about Azir is you can literally just buy the book in the app.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
GW still gets the money.
Yeah.
Right? Even though it costs less, but it saves on printing and all that, and you have immediate access. Plus, it makes you more likely to buy multiple battle tomes, right? When they're a little bit cheaper and you can download them instantly.
At some point, they've got to start figuring out that we live in a digital world.
Yeah.
Print is dead. And I understand that I don't think they really know how to work that yet.
Yeah.
But they have to figure it out. They've got to bring people on that can do that side of the house, take care of it, make it work. Because quite honestly, nobody really wants an entire bookshelf these days of nothing but books that are going to be overwritten in a year or 2 or 3 as editions change, as new codex / battle tome comes out, or gang book, whatever.
Yeah.
You don't want to have just that stuff sitting around. Come on, get digital. And I'm not saying PDF is the answer. Maybe it's app-based. Who knows? But there's lots of companies you can go to out there that are doing it and doing it well, and learn from them or buy them.
Yeah.
You can do that now. So you're big. So anyway, this is really, to me, it just strikes me as a slow time for GW. I guess the Leviathan rollout really taxed their transportation network and everything else and warehousing space. So I'm thinking maybe today's pre-orders announcement is probably going to be maybe Tyranids. The Tyranids they showed off. Yeah.
I thought they were going to release those a little bit later, closer to the Codex launch. Because you can't use them.
I don't know. It's so weird.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do. This is just so weird for them to roll out a new edition and then have such a lag time to get new stuff out. I would have thought they wanted to push it out. I mean, I know you want to make sure you oversell your Leviathan to where there's nothing left, but still you need stuff on the shelves.
Yeah. I mean, that's been a kind of a tough thing because I feel like stuff is just getting bought up so quickly though right now that like if anything hits the shelves and it's an item people want, it doesn't stay on the shelves. Yeah. Like the local shop can't keep anything in stock. Like the second he gets something,
it's gone.
It's gone.
Yep.
Just gone. I mean, I think the Tau section has been depleted for like an entire week.
Yeah, easy.
There are no Armigers or Warhounds to be found in the world.
Eldar gone.
At our shop, there's not a lot of Eldar players, so there's still a lot of Eldar there, which is weird. But everywhere else, we have a surprising amount of Tau players in New Mexico, interestingly.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't keep the stuff on the stock, or can't keep the stuff in stock, can't keep it on the shelves right now with the hotness and people trying to figure out 10th edition.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think if they were to get some more 40K models out there that people would want, I think they're going to just keep, taking that money. They're going to keep getting that money. I mean,
they are printing money right now.
They are.
So it's a good thing. It's, I don't begrudge them that at all. It's just, I know I saw some comments about $40 for a Minkalensk, which is, seriously pricey for a single figure, but, I won't get into that again. We've already hashed that to death, but I just, what's killing me about 10th edition. And we all know that the elephant in the room right now is Eldar. They're still good, even after being nerfed. But every other day you see a video that's, Gene Stealers are broken. Tau are broken.
Custodians are broken.
Adeptus Militarum is broken. And it's, we're in that weird point at the beginning of the edition where, everything's good. Everything is really, really good. Because right now we're kind of on that weird level playing field, unless you're playing Eldar, in which case you're not with anybody else. But it's just crazy. You're seeing people talk about armies that haven't been talked about in ages, except for Death Guard. And I don't know why they beat them down so hard. It's just weird.
Yeah, them, AdMech, and Leagues of Votann.
Oh, Leagues took such a hit.
Like from when they were first released to where they are now, like it's an embarrassment.
Oh, it's
like they were still decent, at the end of 9th, and then like you go into 10th, and it's like, the only way to get a grudge token is for something to die. Great, great.
It's like
okay, this is helping me, actually achieve victory. But I mean, Leagues can still beat Death Guard and AdMech, so
it's a sad truth. Yeah, but everybody can beat Death Guard right now.
Yeah.
Wow, so sad. But anyway, these things will be addressed.
Yeah, I mean, especially when we get the books released that they're going to address, the different abilities they get. I mean, like if you look at it, aren't AdMech and Death Guard pretty quick on the Codex train?
I believe so. Yeah.
I think they might be 4 and 5, or 3 and 4.
3 and 4, yeah.
Yeah, which would make sense.
It would explain why they're not putting any effort into fixing this version.
Like the major ones like Eldar, maybe they won't get something for a while. I think it's showing that any army that's sort of built intelligently and piloted correctly has such a good chance in some respects, right? I think there's certainly some gatekeepers, like Necrons are a gatekeeper for some armies.
You betcha.
Because if you don't know how to DPS down their reanimation stuff, they're just going to keep coming back.
Yep.
Nids not so much. I mean, Space Marines, I think they're a top army.
For now.
So with what they've got presently, even with the points increase to the Desolation Squad, I'm like, still taking a Desolation Squad.
Yeah, it's, it's funny how every game has these, ups and downs and point swings and this, that, and the other thing. But what's good is good.
Yeah.
We've been looking at some of the Star Wars Legion changes, and, it's just huge bunches of point changes came out recently. And, but still the units that are good, and you'll just pay the tax for having them. And you'll drop an upgrade here or drop a unit there just to make sure you have them.
Yep.
And, the way that game plays, it's, if you drop an activation, that's a big deal. And whoopsie, but it's, it's every game has these sort of bumps in the road.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think overall 10th looks really, really good. And it's firing up a lot of people that really swore off 9th. I don't know if you listen to the independent characters, but just almost to a man, that whole group had pretty much stopped. Carl had no interest in playing 9th after about the second year when it started the real bloat.
Yeah.
And it was impossible to teach someone that game.
Yeah.
And then, it just got worse and worse and worse for the casual player, mind you. And now, we're back into this place where it's super easy again. Let's pray it doesn't bloat and know in the back of our minds that it will, because that's what happens.
I mean, GW needs to keep the new players coming in for money purposes. And we'll talk about something like that here in a minute. Because if we look at like how I've seen, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I've observed, when we see these top armies and stuff, some folks will like, oh yeah, I'm a competitive player, I'm going to paint up a new army for this, right? Some folks will do that, but I see a lot of like army swapping, army sales, and so at the competitive level, that like 1 to 3% of players, right, isn't generating the revenue. Now they get to hype the other players, especially those who think that they can be competitive, into getting into it. But then there's bad mouthing GW. I don't want to buy their product.
Sure.
I'm going to 3D print, right? Bringing the new players in and keeping them satisfied and playing the game is what's going to keep it moving forward. Yeah. And they've done such an amazing job with Combat Patrol.
Yeah.
As you buy this box, you can play this mode.
Play it.
And you essentially have a 50-50 chance of winning. And it just comes down to how well you know your army and how well you can play the map. So I think that they've done this great without, saying you have to buy the starter set to play this game.
Right.
They said you can buy any one of these. Yeah. And you can play this game. And Combat Patrol gets friends into it. If you just want quick games, Combat Patrol is what's up. And everything that the ones I've watched and all that, haven't been able to play because I think everyone's afraid of my Thousand Sons. But it's like truly a back and forth every single time. One will punch, the next will punch back. Like it's a slugfest. And, unless you totally botch it. Like one of the stories I heard was that this Custodes player went up against this Astra Militarum player.
Oh boy.
And they thought like, oh, this is gonna, so sorry to the Astra player. Yeah. And they overextended in the first turn and like got blown off the board.
Oh Lord. Yeah, it can happen.
Oh, it can. It was, I mean, that's a beautiful story.
Yeah. That really, those kind of things. And one thing I've noticed about some of the tournament reports that I've seen, I forgot the channel that does those great tournament scene breakdowns. It's nothing but spreadsheets. It's nothing about the tournament. It's the spreadsheet of the tournament. But one thing that does kind of keep popping up is the top players stayed the top players. Mm-hmm. The Richard Sieglers of the world. Anyway, they're staying on top. They're getting it. They get it. They know what to do. They know how to break the code. And just, I feel almost bad for the guy that just runs out and buys an Eldar army because they're super hot right now. Yeah. And is like, here's my key to winning the game. And then, we know that in a month or two, the changes are going to come. The fixes are going to be here. It's going to level out that field a little bit. And that dude's going to be salty, and he's going to be one of the Discourse Miniatures viewers. Yeah. And, jumping on board going, yeah, they suck. So I hate that. But it's a fact of life, and we get over it. Yeah. Speaking of getting over it, White Dwarf 490. What what a freaking White Dwarf this was.
Yeah, it's good.
I laughed about the bunker, and, I joked about how, it's going to be a worldwide club, but we're going to use threads, and we're going to... Actually, what it turns out to be is a really well thought out kind of campaign system for any level, any sort of community group, whether it's your high school team, your high school activity team, or if it's a store, or if it's a bunch of guys in a garage. It's a neat way to set a standard sort of scenario. And, they've got one in there for AOS, one for 40K. Then in the actual meat of the issue itself, they have the war cry campaign, all these different ways to just say, and I don't want to say everybody's playing the same thing, but yeah, basically everybody's playing the same thing. Mm-hmm. And you can actually get a view. And to me, this was the kicker of everybody's playing the same scenario with the same restrictions, rules, what have you. Now you'll be able to start to see a little more who's better, what army's better. I don't want to say that this feeds directly into their data gathering, but it does.
It does.
And by having a level playing field and getting all these reports, they're able to look at that data and say, hey, Death Guard haven't won a game in 6 weeks. We probably need to look at them.
Yep.
And all these other things. But at the same time, on the player end, it's just a neat little way of tracking your progress through your hobby journey into seeing where where you fit in to the whole big crowd. Are you ultra competitive? Well, this is going to fit the need. If you just want to be a narrative guy, hey, this works just fine. Just fine. So I was really, really impressed with this issue, especially with the idea of all the stuff that goes into it being a pullout rather than bound into the book.
I love that part too.
Yeah, so much better.
That was just trying to rip it out. Then you saw the little bit of the spine thing in there.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just not, this is the better way to do it. Plus with the items, being able to fold them and put them into your general's handbook.
Yep.
Right. So you keep it with you.
Yeah. I love all that. Just the thought that went into it. I know Ed's going to give me some crap, but Lyle Lowry, the editor for White Dwarfs, got to really get mad props.
Oh, yeah.
For the direction that White Dwarf is taking and going, and how well they are planning a route towards the future. And, honestly, when you look at the campaigns that they've done recently in White Dwarf, they're pretty damned amazing. So the bunker itself is really cool. But then they didn't leave everybody else out because, there's regular Warhammer battle report in there. There's this, in the AOS section, there's this really great, they have a whole war host section on Sylvaneth.
Yeah.
And how to come up with your own Wargrove. How to develop all this stuff from square one. And I just was reading that going, oh my gosh, that is so cool.
Yeah.
Really well thought out. And I'm hoping they do a lot more of those. But there's something in this book for everybody. There's Blood Bowl in here. There's just, you name it, it's in here. It's awesome. And of course, they're covering Underworlds and Warcry. Just well done. Well done, Lyle. Good job.
Indeed.
Yeah, they should give you more money. Tell them I said you need a raise.
Yeah. Yeah. You know how they listen to Bill.
Yeah. Of course. So I do want to say that I just yesterday got an email that the Wave 2 for the Duncan Rhodes paints is shipped. So I should see that in about 6 to 8 to 12 to 15 weeks because, it's coming from overseas. So,
yeah.
And, but yeah, it's just, can't wait. I really like the Duncan Rhodes paints. He's taken, it's the very first wave. I don't know if I told you, but there's some striking similarities to GW paint colors, but he's doing them in that triad system so that you get your mid-tone and then you get a highlight and a shadow type color. And he's going to keep that going with wave 2. So it kind of, at the same time, it's a neat little paint range. It's a good paint range. It's not breaking any new boundaries or anything, but also you can just look at his paint conversion chart and then look at his triad setups and you can know exactly what GW paints fit into your schemes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a cheater way to use his stuff. But
Yeah.
I mean, try his paints. They're really good. I like them. But that did ship. And I did want to talk a little bit about the Peachy video on the painting phase. Did you watch that video?
I watched
you
about
did.
45 minutes of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really long.
Yeah, it's a long, it's there, like he said, what does he call it? Sidetracks? Because they always get sidetracked.
Yeah.
But it's Peachy talking to another former GW employee, but this guy was the manager for the tools and the hazardous products, which is, paint and glue. And during the course of the discussion, they talk about, the lead times for products and this, that, and the other thing, and how close not that long ago, like within the last 10 years, because he was talking about the 2015, 2016 timeframe, how close GW was in the money department from insolvency. Now, I don't say bankruptcy because they weren't anywhere near that, but literally insolvency, where, they were talking about not being able to pay people, and just how close they came as a company before Kevin Roundtree came in and said, we've got to make some fundamental changes here. And he turned it around to where it is what it is now. That was a really interesting video to watch from two insiders.
Yeah, they were really talking a lot of shop. So the ins and outs of things and like the purposes and goals of different products. One thing I really like they talked about is that he was saying they're like, we're not selling enough glue. We need to sell more glue. Yeah. And then when they looked at it, the glue sales were dropping at like the exact same rate as model sales. And like, I think this is really sort of like what birthed contrast paints, when they talk about how they wanted to decrease the amount of time that you go from, primer to finished product. Yep. And it wasn't about making it easier for anyone. It was about achievability, right? Yeah. And so that was like the whole goal behind it. And, talking about how they want to like have the same arcs as watching a movie when you're painting. Yep. Right. It's like, I'm doing it right now because the way I'm painting my Thousand Suns, like it was primer gray and then going over with the purples and building those up and building up the golds and everything, and I was like, man, now I remember why I like contrast so much. But what would be great is, when I get the paint on, hit the shade, and then really start working up it's going to start popping. But it's still that feeling, like achievability is out there. It's not within reach, So I thought that was a fun part of the discussion.
It really was, just having that guy capture all that information and the data analysis that he did to arrive at these conclusions. When they got off on their little tangent about talking about the different clippers they've done over the years, it's just, I love the way when they talk about the all metal clippers, and he made that quick side comment about that was a corporate decision. And you can tell that he was like, these things are shit. They're crap. And even the company told us they couldn't bevel the cutting edge to the degree that we wanted in order to make it into a good clipper.
Yeah.
But corporate said, we're going with it. And it was just like, oh my God, it explains so much of why some of those hobby tools are so bad. Because, the ones that literally were designed by committees are horrible. The ones that he said, this is what I want, make it, okay, ship it, are actually, the tools that we still go back to and use all the time from the GW tools range. So it's just, I thought it was funny as hell to listen.
It was a good discussion, and made me really think that we have all benefited so greatly from the development of contrast paints. Like, not just because it does give that achievability, right, with an ease of use, but because it literally spurned onward developments in the market as well, because companies had to answer it.
Yep.
They had to answer it, and you had Speed Paints 1.0 that they didn't answer quite correctly.
Yeah.
And forced them to go back and re-answer, and now they have a much better product.
Far better product.
So it's created innovation, in the community, but they were there first, and like Contrast 2.0 was so great. The second release. Oh my God.
If you want all those times that you've wanted to do a yellow army, but didn't because it was not available. And now there's a one coat, literally yellow army that you can build and paint and have on the table in a week or two. Awesome. And just knocking it out of the park with some of these colors. Some of the colors are just bad. There's just this thing about pigment. Sometimes they just don't work in that kind of a medium. But it's another thing that's in your toolbox. It's like an airbrush. Yeah. Can you do an army without an airbrush? Oh, hell yes. Does having an airbrush make it a lot easier? Oh, God, yes. So, and, just as an aside, stay tuned for the end of the show because there might be an airbrush in the contest pack. Hint, hint. I really got a kick out of that video. It was a lot of fun. It was definitely my call out for the 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So let's take a quick break and we'll jump into creation.
Sounds good.
Make sure you join us tonight for the news at 11.
And as the lovely lady just said, it is time enough for love. No, it's time enough for Warcry starter sets and warbands.
What?
Yes.
Who'd have thought?
Who'd have thunk it? So more not 40K.
Also more not Cities of Sigmar?
Yeah, and not Flesh Eaters and not Nightcrawler. And
I'd be a little weirded out if, GW released a Nightcrawler model. So.
That would be weird. Yes.
Would I mind it? Probably not, because it'd be a good plastic. Anyway, yeah, this is interesting because they are literally taking Underworld's models and releasing them in the starter set.
Yes.
Right? We had the Vamps that everyone loved.
Yep.
It was trying to get nonstop. And then we have, I forget her name. Does it say what her name is on here?
It will.
Zandir's Truth Seekers.
Yes.
Yeah, the Stormcast with the lantern.
Yep.
They're recycling some old terrain, except I don't know about that vampire statue.
The Neferata statue. Yeah. Now, the terrain, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's, just busted out of the mausoleum kits or the Garden of Moor. Yeah. No, it's really not. These are all new pieces that fit perfectly with your mausoleum, your Garden of Moor, whatever you want to call it. They fit. And that Neferata statue, I'm probably buying more than one of this box because I want to have 2 of those flanking my court for the night haunt. So, yeah, this is sad. This is truly sad. I love that terrain. Although, honestly, for a Warcry game, that is not a lot of terrain.
It's not.
And there's no elevation. 0.
But it is a starter set.
It is. It is.
So they just want to make sure you get enough to play around with things. So I really like the coffin with the giant pool of blood next to it.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It is. This terrain is so just, I love it. It's so evocative. I just wish there was more of it. I'm betting you that in a little while, there will be more of that.
That might be the direction they take with the next set of Warcry terrain anyway, which I hope they do. That I will take it. Also, we're getting the Quester Soulsworn and Royal Beast Flayers. They were the ones from the last box, Nightmare Hunt.
Yep.
So now they're coming out individually. Thank God, so I can get those Royal Beast Flayers. And I'm going to be summoning those guys.
Yep, it's good stuff. It's a good box. It's a really interesting box. If you're already, far deep into Warcry, you don't need any of the ancillary stuff, but it's worth it to get the models. Whereas if you've never gotten into it, now boom, you're in. And life is good.
Here's something interesting. Talking about officially licensed merch.
I am so spending money on that. I hate these people.
So Attaboy has lanyards. 1 Orc, 1 Space Marine, and then Merchoid, Warhammer 40,000 desk mats.
Yes,
those are going to sell.
Long ones. These are the 80 centimeter by 30 centimeters. So these are mouse pads, but they go under your whole keyboard and mouse setup. Yes, sign me up for about 6 of each. God dang it.
They look cool. Hold on, let me see if I can zoom in on these.
In fact, I might pick up a couple of these and add them to the prize pool, depending on when I can get them in. Those are so gorgeous.
Yeah, like they have some of the new updated art, but one of them is the classic art for all the factions.
All the old game boxes. Yeah. Oh, my God.
That's cool.
Those are the old codexes. And what do we have here? We have the Assassin's Codex. Of course, let me see. What's next? The
Imperial Guard, Angels of Death.
Angels of Death, thank you. Ultramarines. Of course, Sisters of Battle, Eldar, Orcs, Tyranids, and Chaos. Oh, Lord. Those are the old covers from the codexes.
Yep.
Oh, back when codexes were on paper, not
Oh, boy.
hardcover. Yep.
That's
Great
fun.
stuff. Yeah, those are great little mouse pad or desk pads.
Then we moved to Black Library and in the Death Volume 1 paperback. Gaunt's Ghosts will have a print on demand for their 4 books.
I really like that because there's a lot of people that are kind of ticked about having missed out on that last go round. So having them print on demand, brilliant.
And then we moved to Warhammer Plus, where we have the next episode in Angels of Death Origins.
Nice.
And then all the lore from Space Marine Codex White Scars. Yeah, that's cool.
Yep. It's an interesting week.
Feels like a bit of a lull.
Yeah. Just another.
Right.
After you spend all that money on Leviathan and what have you, you can let your wallet take a break if you're not into those things.
Yeah, I think August is going to come back with a vengeance, so
I believe you are correct.
we're going to see some heavy hitters there. That's where we're probably going to see cities, maybe the new Space Marine stuff and Tyranid stuff.
Yeah, probably.
Cool beans.
All right, so let's move on with the rest of the show.
Yeah.
All right, let's launch into creation. I want to go first.
Okay, go.
I want to talk. Oh, yeah, I'm done. Literally, this last 2 weeks have been a nightmare of craziness. The least of which is like the wife's car just completely breaking.
Oh, my God.
Oh, so super hot day. It's, I'm not going to tell everybody how hot it's been lately because it's been hot.
I haven't noticed.
And yeah, she ended up one day parking in the sun out there at work, came out, jumped in the car. The car literally would not shift. It would not, whether she tried manual or automatic, it would not shift into second gear. So she was limited to about 5 miles an hour.
Oh, great.
And, she calls the dealership. Dealership says, sit there, open the windows, run the air conditioning for about 5 minutes, turn the car off, turn the car back on, everything's fine. And she did, and it was. And I'm just like, we're bringing that, you fix that crap. And then the next day I'm at work and there's like half a dozen people that had the exact same thing. It was too hot for the car's computers to boot up correctly.
Oh, my God.
And I was like, when did we get to the point to where the computer would, anyway, that's so sidetracked. I built one of the Shatterpoint boxes. I built the Inquisitors. No, I'm sorry. I built General Grievous, Kraken, and the 2 B2 droids, or 4 B2 droids. And AMG, if you're listening, which I know you're not, will you please learn how to do robot models? God, you're annoying. Anyway, so
how do you really feel, Bill?
it's I don't think that's a good kit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Grievous was fun to put together. You just had to do him in sub-assemblies and then put everything together. Kraken is more like, he's got the spindly legs and the spindly body. And I hate it when I have to resort to super glue to get things to work.
Yeah.
And it just bothers me to no end. And really, in order to get those legs on, you have to use super glue.
Ugh.
And I hate that. But anyway, that is literally all I did was built one box of Shatterpoint stuff. And in the other office, I have a new shipment of Battletech miniatures that have to be, luckily they come completely built, but they have to be washed and trimmed and then painted. So it's my next commission.
There you go.
I say these commissions like, oh, I'm making big dollars painting. Yeah, no, not a penny. Just doing it for friends that can't paint.
That way you can get them in the game, right?
Exactly. That's all it is they're not going to be able to play, or they're going to play with gray minis, but it's a hell of a lot more fun to see a table full of painted minis than gray ones.
Truth.
So, thank God for contrast.
Yeah. Whip those puppies out.
So what'd you do?
I did a little bit. So I was able to, by the grace of Clayton, obtain a Mutalith Vortex Beast.
Nice.
Right? Which no one has. So I got that, built it, painted it.
Nice.
It's all done. I'll probably throw some extra stuff on the base. Like I got it to just like enough.
Yeah.
Right? But it was fun. It was a lot of me manipulating washes and dry brushes and stuff like that.
Yep.
Then began painting the Combat Patrol for the Thousand Suns. So I got the base coats down on the skin for the Zengors, and I'm working on getting the base coats for the purple part of the armor for the Terminators right now. I did also put the purple down on the Hellbrute I have that I may run in some lists. And then one of the things for the Leviathan set that came out, we all had the opportunity as customers to paint one of the models there, and so I got the Screamer Killer.
Oh, nice.
It was funny because Andrew was saying you have to paint it the way I tell you to, and that's going to include having to learn how to paint that brain area.
Yeah.
Right. And so other friends of ours down at the shop who are all like pretty good painters, like, no, man, no, I don't think I can. And I was like, bring it on.
Yeah. Bring it.
So I painted up the Screamer Killer, and it's the methods used aren't hard to get that sort of box arty look.
Yeah.
It's a lot of manipulating washes, contrast, some dry brush. There's a lot of ways to handle it. And it's all pretty simple. Like when it came down to like painting that brain area, the method that Anders had me use was easy, straightforward.
Yeah.
It wasn't a complex thing, right? And then getting, like that sort of like fading from like the white to the super dark on the arms, super easy with just repeated shades.
Yep.
It was a fun paint, in the end. The only thing I think was super annoying is painting the little like light purple ridge marks on the carapace. Oh goodness, that was tedious. But that was probably the only thing I did not enjoy about that one. So that was a real fun one. I think I already posted pictures on Instagram about it, but
I hope so.
Anders has to finish it up because he needs to get the astrogranite for the base.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't have it for me to finish it up, so he'll finish that part at least. But I did the big parts. So
nice.
That's what I did for creation.
All right, let's move along to another short segment, which is battle. So I got 2 games of Shatterpoint in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the sum total of that 2 weeks. Yeah. We had a couple of meetings. We had a couple of get-togethers to set up the next BattleTech campaign, but I'll cover that in After Dark. The next BattleTech campaign is going to be off the hook.
Oh, I put down that I didn't do anything and said, I put down, don't look at me. But I forgot because remember last time I was, rushing to leave.
Rushing to get to the store.
Yeah, because we were playing in Underworld's Rivals format. There was a total of 5 of us. One guy only played 1 game. So I got there. The first 2 players were already playing. And there was a 3rd player that showed up and a 4th player, but who had to build his his Underworld's team.
Whoopsie.
So then I played the other guy. He was using a Rivals deck, but he was using the first Skaven warband, the one where you can keep resummoning them.
Yeah.
And I was playing Hexbane's Hunters.
Oh boy.
And I found out that you get a couple glory to Hexbane's Hunters, and they just pop off. Holy cow.
Yes.
Like baiting people into fighting your dogs, so that way you can inspire the other dog, and Quiet Pock, and like there's just so many like really interesting synergies in just the core deck, because again, in the Rivals format there's no sub cards. It's just what comes out of the box, either with your warband or that you buy off
a Rivals
the wall.
deck. Yeah.
So it was pretty fun. In the end I won.
Good.
So I played one guy, beat him twice. So we're doing like 2 out of 3 initially, right? Because there weren't that many players. But then the games were starting to run long because we all hadn't really played Underworlds in quite some time. And so it was set to run from 12 to 5. I got there like at 1, and they were still doing the first round because they were doing 2 out of 3. So I did 2 out of 3 with the other guy. In the meantime, Ed, who he was in the finals, he played the other guy who had his the Gits versus the vampires. Ed was playing vampires.
Oh boy.
Right? And Ed wins in the end, right? And they only played 1 game. And so I was just kind of like, we don't have much time to play in another game. Like it's like 4:15 at this point.
Jeez.
Right? And just like, oh, you just want to do 1 game, Ed, to see, for the finals. And so he was like, all right, let's do it. Right? And so I know how his deck plays, right? It's a very aggressive deck, but they can just tear through things if you're not careful. So I got to pick board position, and so I created a 2 hex funnel for him to have to go through, and I just plugged the hole the best I could, baited him into killing the dog, doing all this stuff.
Yep.
And it came down to essentially, it was kind of daunting. I would think, because like the vampires would come through this 2-hex place, and I had all 3 of my ranged hunters just there with a firing line, and I had Voltron the crap out of Hexbane. I think he had 6 upgrades on him or something.
Oh, God.
You know, so like all of his most, I think, like 1 or 2 of the vampires are dodge, right? And I had ensnare from one of the items, so I ensnare whatever I did, plus 1 attack dice. Like I just stacked so many things.
Jesus.
And then it got to the point where he's like, do I try to, oh, and I had the, I love this item. It's the quick pistol that they have, right?
Yes.
Like, oh, did you move within 4? I shot you. Did they move within 4? I shot them too.
Shot them
did they
too.
move within 4? I shot them too. Like, it's one of my favorite weapons. And he had this thing where like, if I try to charge, then you have all these ways to try and stop me. If I try and take this objective, then you have knockback, like, because Pac has knockback too when he's inspired. It was like, so he just hit his last model because I killed his other 3 zombies. Not zombies, vampires.
Yeah.
That was a crazy game. Hexbane's is rough until you start getting glory, and then once you do, it's
Yeah, they ramp up
bonkers.
seriously bad. Yeah.
Yeah, for like out of the box, they are really good. Really good.
Yeah. It's, they are really so much crazy fun. I don't know. I thought I saw a thing that said somewhere there's a change to one of their actual character cards, but I didn't really look into it. But I don't know what that was for. I did, like I said, I didn't study it. I didn't see if it was a balance change or if it was just like we spelled this wrong. So I don't know.
It was a cool like little tournament because there was like a ton of prize support.
Nice.
So you know how they have those like alternate art cards for the different characters?
Oh, yeah.
I think we got something like 13 or 14 warbands worth of alternate art cards.
Nice.
We got, I think I ended up getting like 2 or 3 of the like sort of resin glory tokens.
Oh, yeah. Those are awesome.
A bag for all the tokens, deck box. We got some of the foil cards too.
Nice.
And then for first place, I got like a blood red glass shard trophy for it. So
Cool.
it was fun. That was pretty intense games, having to literally relearn it on the fly.
On the fly, yeah.
It was fun.
Yep, it's just such a good game.
Mhm.
I mean, it's one of those, like I said, it's with the Rivals decks, I have no problem playing against the wife knowing that, we both have an even shot at this. It's
Totally.
fair.
Yeah.
So I do love that part of it.
And being able to play any of the warbands that have come out before.
Yep.
Cool stuff. I mean, so other than that little tournament thing, I didn't play any other games the last 2 weeks, unfortunately. Tried to. I was at the store with some 40K, looking to get good with my 1,000 Suns.
And nobody will play against them.
But nobody turned up, and then like when they did, like they would just like, oh, I've already arranged to play with someone else. Oh, great. Thanks.
Damn you.
Because if I get 3 40K games over 1,000 points in, I will complete my hobby bingo for the year.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Awesome. That is, wow, that's by end of July. Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Good work. All right, again, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to grab some breakfast, and then we'll jump into the General's Handbook.
And now for something completely different.
Okay, so we're fat, dumb, and happy, or at least fat and dumb, in my case. So, no, I gotta say I'm happy. I can't complain. So it's time for the General's Handbook, and this is the handbook we're going to have for the next year.
Yes, a whole year.
Now, I think everybody knows my feeling of the last couple of General's Handbooks.
Yep.
And so don't want to hash that out again. I don't think they were good. I think they were bad. I think they missed the mark completely. I think what we have now is a handbook that has planned for the future. There's so many little hooks in here. There's so many little ways that they can now expand it or contract it if need be. I don't see anything in here game breaking.
Yeah.
But it's certainly going to change play styles quite a bit, and I think for the better, really. We shall dive into this handbook. And, of course, you really kind of have to... The book starts out with, of course, the pitch battle point limits and how to build an army. We all know that stuff. We're not going to cover that. It's relatively the same as... Nothing there changed. What we do have is the ability to forget all your Galician... lieutenants, captains, majors, colonels, veterans, my Galician veteran's better than yours. I win. Now we've gone to Antor, the Bitter Land. And we have about 4 pages of lore in here that is so non-specific, it's painful.
Yes.
In its non-specificity. It's just literally a background, and I will summarize 4 pages in it's cold, there's Antor, there's Bjarl, and they hate each other, and they attack each other a lot, and that's it.
And magic's run amok.
And yeah, magic goes nuts. Which leads to this set of realm rules. The very first of which is One with the Land. In this rule, this says wizard heroes with a wounds characteristic of 9 or less that are not unique gain the Antorian Locus keyword.
Yep.
Then we jump to optimal focus. This is where things start to get spicy. At the start of the battle round, after priority is determined, the player taking the second turn can pick one friendly hero on the battlefield. If that hero is an Antorian Locus, they can attempt to cast 1 extra spell and attempt to unbind 1 extra spell in that battle round. Now, key point. If they are not an Antorian Locus, they receive 1 command point that can only be spent to allow that hero to issue a command. Now, here's something that has come up a couple of times. As written, if you go second and you do have an Antorian Locus in your battle force, you are not required to pick that hero. If you have another one, you can pick it to get the command point rather than the extra cast or unbind.
Yep.
And there's been some, I guess, consternation over that because it could be considered to be the best of both worlds. But I'm thinking these are small spellcasters, and the addition of an extra cast and unbind for them is pretty big. Croak could care less.
Yeah.
Teclis would care less. But these guys care. And so choosing someone else in order to get the command point, I think, is a choice you should have. And it's a choice you might make depending on the game state.
Yeah, if you look at things like, you think Seraphon, you think tons of casting because that's how people play it competitively, right? But if you went more coalesced, right?
Yeah.
And you may have like a couple wizards here and there, right?
Yeah.
Then, yeah, it could be it's more beneficial for you to do the extra cast this turn.
Yeah.
But next turn, well, I'm definitely going to need that CP for my third turn,
You betcha.
Blitzkrieg. So there's a lot of like flexibility in that. Plus it also and distinctly makes it so armies that do not have wizards and cannot gain wizards
Yes.
get some benefit.
You betcha.
And when I read that and I see, Khorne, if they go second, gets an extra CP that hero can use, I'm like, ooh,
That's brutal.
that's a spicy meatball.
That is, a coalesced army with an extra command point. And I mean, a strictly coalesced army, a no wizard coalesced, just basically dinosaurs. That's going to be huge. There's so many armies that are going to benefit from this. And again, I think a Stormcast army that chooses to go second in the second round could very well have a lot more benefit from that command point than an extra cast.
Oh, yeah. You take like a Knight in Cantor.
Yeah.
Primarily for the Discroll spell.
Yeah.
Or Dispel Scroll, sorry.
Just scroll spell.
I reckoned that one, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Okay. So if you're trying to dis-scroll a spell, the Dispel Scroll, you might not really care about an extra cast for that wizard. You just want her to do her one job.
Yeah.
So then you're like, okay, well then, my Knight on Dragon, I'm going to go ahead and have them get an extra CP that they can use to
Snark up a CP.
right?
Yep.
And you get the benefit of going second, which means if you're going against the casting army and they try to do their big spell, you have your first scroll that you can drop on them to say, no, I'm sorry.
Yep. I mean, so there's options here, and I like that this is giving you the option to play your way and to have your fun. So you want to cover Primal Magic? Because this is fun.
Oh, Primal Magic is so interesting. So because the land around them itself is just, again, alive with magic, right? And it's Gur. So they had to throw Primal in front of it.
Sure.
But the start of the hero phase. So both players' turns, the hero phase. Both players roll a dice for each 4+. Each player receives 1 Primal Magic dice. After a player attempts to cast or unbind a spell, or after a player attempts to dispel an endless spell, they can roll one of their primal magic dice. If they do so, add the result to the casting, unbinding, or dispelling roll. That player can continue to roll additional primal magic dice until the caster suffers a primal miscast, or there are no more primal magic dice to be rolled.
So bite me, Teclis.
Yeah.
You
Primal miscasts are spicy.
And it does, as a side note on this, there are some spells where it says it counts as going off on a 12.
Yeah.
But it does not say that it's not unbindable. And this is where you get that, I rolled a 7. Yep. Maybe I rolled 2 primal dice to try to get over that 12.
Yeah.
And so, options. Love them. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, that puts anti-magic armies in such a fun spot.
Yes, it does.
So if there's anything that lets you re-roll the casting, unbinding, or dispelling roll, you have to choose to do that first.
Yep.
And if you choose to do that, you cannot use primal magic dice to supplement. So that's a very important cap on it, because you can't be like, I'm going to fish for this and then I'm going to like blast it out of the stratosphere.
Right.
It's casting value 12 or something, right?
Well, I can see people rolling, a 5 and a 1. Well, I'm going to re-roll to get rid of the 1 so I can go primal.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Nope. That's not how that works. And so at the end of each battle round, not player turn, all primal magic dice are lost, right? And then you start over.
A great equalizer. Otherwise, if you could save those like, a zinc die or, something like that, it gets stupid fast.
It get real dumb.
So,
if you roll a primal, I love this. If you roll a primal magic dice as part of a casting roll, on an unmodified one of a casting roll that includes a double 1, the caster suffers a primal miscast instead. So your wizard essentially goes nuclear.
Yeah.
The spell is not cast. The caster suffers D3 plus 3 mortal wounds, average 5 mortal wounds.
That's just ridiculous.
And each other unit within 3 inches, not friendly, not enemy, each other unit. So everyone within 3 inches suffers D3 mortal wounds, and you cannot cast any more spells. I love that. You're trying to draw on this primal magic, but it backfires.
And it
big backfires hard.
So you will see caster bombs going off. This guy's only 6. Yeah, let's run him in there in the middle of the enemy army and roll all of our primal dice.
Yeah.
Fishing for ones.
And a lot of the casters that qualify for the loci, the Antorian loci, are just such small characters, right? 9 wounds or less, unnamed. And so Cities of Sigmar has, 1,000 little casters they can throw in there.
This could, I think there's a strategy around some of this bombing.
Yeah.
Some of this just crazy. I have, 8 or 9 spellcasters, and then when I need them to do something, I can bomb a couple of them. I think there's something there.
I think definitely in narrative, because I think you cap at 6 heroes, right?
Yeah,
in competitive play. So
yeah, it's a good point.
It will. Well, I guess the question is, can you use them with the unit champions in Lumineth?
Oh God! Oh my God!
I think you can. No, because they're not Antorian loci, right?
Yeah, no, they wouldn't be a locust.
Hold on. You don't need to be a locust to use the primal magic die when you're casting.
Correct.
So you can.
Oh my God! Oh my! Ooh, Lumineth just got weird.
It's gonna get weird when you charge into the wardens and they're like down to the last man and he just detonates.
Poof! We're going out in a blaze of glory, boys.
Right. Reminds me of the spirit flasks that the Stormcast have when you're like, all right, I'm about to die. I'm gonna take everyone with me.
I have 3 of these, and they're all going off. Oh Lord, that's
all 3 of the grenade pins in your teeth.
Yep.
Drop them. But here's a cool thing on the flip side. If you ever have a double 6, when you have a primal magic dice, it auto casts, cannot be unbound, but you cannot cast any more spells.
The primal miscast or the primal supercast, that caster is done, which is only fair, really.
Yeah, I think that's mainly, in my opinion, important for frogs.
Yeah.
Because frogs are under 10 wounds, and they're not named.
Right.
And so they're loci, because they're jerks. And that
and they have multiple spell casts.
Right. And they get all these bonuses, and you get to do the pluses. And anyway, I think that this is really important for particularly like those kinds of casters. I will say, going back to, because I love my flesh eater courts, any abhorrent on foot is a caster and is therefore a loci, right?
Yep.
So they get some good benefits, I think, from that. And, in particular, not everyone can be a wizard. So sometimes you can't even have any wizards. And so you need some type of special enhancements to help out with that, Bill. Why don't you talk about the Nullstone adornments?
Okay, so if you are magic challenged, you can get Nullstone adornments. A Nullstone adornment is a unique enhancement that can only be taken by an army that does not include any wizards or units with abilities that would allow a unit to cast spells in the same manner as a wizard. So if you take the book, if you take any of those weird upgrades that give you a spell cast, you're out of this game.
Yep.
You can always take one Nullstone enhancement in such an army. Each time you take a Nullstone enhancement, you can pick one adornment from the table below and give it to one hero in your army that does not already have an artifact of power. If you have a rule that allows you to take an extra enhancement, you can take a Nullstone adornment enhancement as that extra enhancement, but you cannot pick the same one twice, nor can you give it to a hero that already has either an adornment or an artifact. So, covering the standard rules.
Yes.
You can't double up until you've used all of them, which you'll never do in this game. And then there are 3 Nullstone adornments. I want to cover the one I think is the coolest.
Okay.
It's just me thinking it's the coolest. I'm not saying it's the best. But the Pouch of Null Dust, which is once per battle, which I normally hate, but once per battle at the start of the hero phase, you can say the bearer will use their Pouch of Null Dust. If you do so until the end of that phase, unmodified casting rolls that include double 1, double 2, or double 3 are treated as miscasts, or if a primal magic dice was used as part of the casting, as a primal miscast. So here is Corrin's ability to go, okay, Seraphon, okay, Lumineth, let's see you play with this.
Yeah.
So granted, it's only for a turn, but that turn that you actually get to really mess with magic, it could be very pivotal. So I love that pouch.
But don't forget the little bit at the end, in addition. I always love an in addition.
Oh, yes. In addition is always cool. Roll a die for each endless spell on the battlefield. On a 5-up, the endless spell is dispelled. And it doesn't say friendly or enemy. So it's all of them. But you're not going to have any out there. So
yeah, I mean, so personally, that'd probably be the second one I would pick out of the 2. I love that as a once per battle, particularly if you have someone who's got a bunch of endless spells, and they're just like unleashing them and you're like, cool, how about we don't do that today? All 3 of these are good.
yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
For anyone who wants to play Khorne or Fire Slayers into this meta, right? The hand-carved Nullstone icon, you get a dispel and unbind as if you're a wizard, and if you're successful, you get to do it again.
Yeah.
Right? That's great. Polished Nullstone Pebble, you get to, on a 4+, essentially redirect the effect of a spell to another unit within 3 inches. If it would target both units, you just ignore it.
Yep.
Right? That's great.
That's a super good one for keeping your general going.
Yep.
In a magic-heavy army, in a magic-heavy fight. So, yeah. All 3 of those are very, very good.
So, I guess depending on how you read it, right, we'd have to look at the timing stuff with Khorne, because I think you could try to do your Khorne ignore first.
Yeah.
And then you can try to shrug it to the next unit, right?
Yeah.
But then the question would be, if you shrug it to that unit, can they then do your Khorne roll?
Wow. We get back into that double ward save.
Yeah, because this is a timing mess.
Oh, it is. Because, if you slough it to a unit and then that unit takes their ward, does it just, ooh.
Stormcaster, cool.
After rereading the Hatred of Sorcery, right, it says anytime that your unit is affected by a spell, whereas the Nullstone Pebble says when you're the target.
Right.
So timing-wise, you would get your Pebble ability first.
Yep.
If you toss it to the next unit, they still get their Hatred of Sorcery.
Yes.
If you fail it, you still get your Hatred of Sorcery, right? So you get a kind of a weird double protection thing there.
Yeah. Just based on timing. So.
Yeah.
Or wording, because one is being targeted, the other one's being affected.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's actually kind of cool. I wonder if they didn't think of that or if they left it in on purpose. Either way, it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it does deal with the timing stuff because if they were both targeted, then you choose prio on it. And you're like, no, I'm going to try and Hatred of Sorcery first. You do that every single time, right? I'm going to see if I can just stop it. If I can't, I'm going to try and throw it on them, and then they can try to stop it.
God.
But as written, it's a little cleaner,
Yeah.
so you can redirect first. If you're successful, your other unit who is then affected will be able to.
We'll hate it.
Yep.
Love it. So now, the part we've all been waiting for. We're going to put the horror in Horrorfrost. Let's talk about the Realm Sphere magic. So the magic of the realm that we are going into is called the Lore of Primal Frost. This is accessible to Antorian locusts only. So no Croak, no Teclis, bye. So there are 3 spells, one of which is bonkers. And Josh, you claimed the name, so you want to cover?
Yeah. So a lot of these have high casting values. You have to understand because you have primal magic going on, right? But the effects they have are pretty good.
Spicy.
So Horfrost is a spell that has a casting value of 8 and range of 12. If successfully cast, pick one friendly unit wholly within range and visible to the caster. Pick one melee weapon profile on that unit's war scroll and roll a d3. Change the to hit, to wound, or rend characteristic of that melee weapon to match the result until the start of your next hero phase. For example, if the result was a 2, you could change it to either the 2 hit characteristic to 2+, the 2 wound characteristic to 2+, or the rend characteristic to -2.
God, that's just so absolutely freaking bonkers.
Yeah.
Especially when you factor in the double turn and how it specifically says your next hero phase.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that could be so much fun.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And just, I forgot to say this part, there is a designer note.
Yes.
A roll of a 1 always fails.
Yes.
So you don't get that, that little, I rolled the 1 on the D3, so I'm hitting on 1. So you're hitting on 2s.
Yes.
You will always fail on a 1. So this is really interesting because like the die roll itself will always be good.
Yeah.
Right. So if I roll high, yeah, you can bet your that I'm going to be doing Ren 3.
Ren 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's super low, I'm actually myself probably going to put it on the 2 wound characteristic.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Like you roll a 1 on that. Yeah. I'll wound on 2s
I'll
all
wound
day.
on 2s all day long. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I can, very easily +1 to hit,
Yep.
So it's so powerful. I mean, there is a limited range, so it's like you can't just like reach out to this giant brick and just barely touch them. You need to be within wholly within that 12.
Yep.
And then, it's got a high casting value, so you're probably going to be burning primal magic.
But it's really 8 is not that hellish. It's 1 off average. So I'll take my chances sometimes. Obviously want to throw a die at that one. If you're going to go through the trouble of casting it, I'll throw a die at it. But the next spell that I really think is awesome is Merciless Blizzard. Oh my God. I love the way they Seraphon proof this spell.
Yeah, right.
So Merciless Blizzard is a spell that has casting value of 12. Okay? 12. And a range of 12 inches. If successfully cast, pick one enemy unit within range and visible to the caster. That unit suffers 4d6 mortal wounds. But for each roll of a 1, the caster also suffers d3 mortal wounds that cannot be negated. The range of this spell cannot be modified and must be measured from the caster, even if an ability would allow you to measure it from elsewhere. So it's basically proofed against going through spell portals.
Yeah.
So very nice, very cool, very large downside.
Yeah.
If you roll 1s, you blow up your caster. If you roll 6s, oh my God, you can wipe out 4d6.
Yeah.
That you can wipe units off the table with a single cast.
Yeah, that's why it's a casting value of 12.
Sure.
That's why the range is limited and it can't be augmented, because if you got too techie with that, it'd be probably the most broken spell with the primal dice that you got.
It would. And I just love the wording on this one where it's clean, concise, it's incredibly powerful. It's also not prone to abuse.
Yes.
But by God, that game, when it goes off and you roll 4, 5, 5, 6, you're like, woohoo, yes, I win again. Oh my Lord. Then the game that you roll 1, 1, 2, 3, you're like, oh, my caster died.
Yeah.
I hate this spell.
I think it's fun because it, in essence, in my opinion, brings a little bit of the Timmy to the Magic Tech game. Because when you get off that 4d6 mortal wounds, that dude's just going to be like roaring, They have their one weird knob and you're like, screw it, I'm taking Merciless Blizzard. And it goes off and you just wah. Like,
oh, Lord. Oh, God.
Oh, it'd be fun.
This is going to be fun.
The last one's called Rupture. Real quick, cast by 10, range of 18. Pick one Predatory Endless Spell or one Incarnate. Mind you, Incarnates are going to come up again. Wholly within range and visible to the caster. The target becomes wild and cannot be picked to be controlled or bonded for the rest of the battle, which I think is hilarious.
Yes.
So when you have those OBR folks who are, auto-including their endless spells or predatory endless spells, and you go like, yeah, I don't think you can control it anymore.
Yeah, no, it's really not a thing.
Yeah. And so you just get one spell from this lore for each locus you have in your army, if you want to, instead of picking something from the normal spell lore. So you can, if you take 3 loci and you're like, yeah, I don't want any of those other spells, you can take these 3 spells.
Yeah.
Right?
And these are amazingly useful spells.
Yeah.
That in some cases will really make you go, gosh, I really like the spell from my book, but this. Now, I would say that at this point right now, Rupture is kind of meh until we see a resurgence in endless spells or another Incarnate, which we'll talk about here in a bit. But yeah, it's kind of a Rupture is, I think that it's a future proofing spell. I do believe in this General's Handbook, they do revamp a ton of the endless spells to be a lot more playable, a lot more balanced, and a heck of a lot more. I think they'll make a comeback. I really do.
Geminids are ridiculous now. Geminids.
A little bit.
Little broken.
Just, maybe. Yeah.
Oh boy. Those are going to go up in price.
They are.
So you have some command traits you can give to your loci and just kind of rattle through them real quick. You can know all the spells from the lore of the Primal Frost. That might be a fun one for a slan.
Yeah.
At the start of this Eye of the Blizzard, on a 5+, you gain additional Primal Magic dice. That's at the start of your hero phase.
Yep. Those are pretty standard, boring, blah.
Yeah, a lot of these are just like you get some things. Eater of Magic I thought was funny.
Eater of Magic is amazing.
So if you successfully unbind a spell on a 5+, the caster no longer knows that spell.
Yeah.
You're just like, no, bro.
Yeah, that's the old Nurgle trick. And then Chill to the Bone, I really, really love. Once per battle, if this general suffers a miscast or primal miscast, you can roll a die on a 3-up, ignore the effect of the miscast or primal miscast. If you are going magic heavy, that's something you really have to seriously consider.
Yeah, you don't want to be in a position where, like, I need this to go off and you primal miscast.
Yep.
And then instead, you can just be like, oh, nope.
I mean, I usually would hate to waste my command trait on an insurance spell, but if that's how you're basing what you're going to do, then it's definitely worth a consideration.
Sure is. Then they got the new core battalion, so you have the Entorian Acolytes, where this allows you to take 3 little foot heroes, probably going to be your loci, right? As long as you have 2 or more units in this battalion on the battlefield, so there's a caveat, right? You can take up to 3. As long as you have 2 from this battalion on the battlefield, you can get another primal dice on a 3-up.
Yeah, and they have to be locuses. 2 of them have to be locuses. So, yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I don't see how much that'll get played. The next one, the Wizard Finders, I think will get a little more play.
Oh, yeah.
They're magic hunters. Each time a unit in this battalion is picked to fight, you can say it will go on a wizard hunt. Who knew? If you do so, pick 1 melee weapon profile on that unit's war scroll. Till the end of that phase, add 1 to the attack's characteristics of that melee weapon. But all of the attacks that unit makes in that phase must target an enemy wizard. Caveat, wizards cannot be included in this battalion because hypocrisy is bad.
Yeah, and this one you need a foot hero,
Yep.
up to 2 infantry, and up to 1 monster.
Yes.
So, yeah, this is going to be a spicy meatball. I tell you what.
That is a hunting pack. That I just love that one.
Yeah.
It's a hunting pack that you can use as a 1-drop and just have a blast with it. Oh, too much fun. Too much fun.
Yeah, we'll see a lot of those in Corn.
I think so.
So then they added 6 grand strategies.
Yes.
So, I mean, don't want to necessarily read all of them, but grand strategies are, like the book grand strategies are bad. These ones look like they might have some play,
Right.
right?
It's really going to depend on your army. I don't see a lot of these shaking out, some of the Battle Tome grand strategies, but there are a couple on here that could be fun.
Yeah.
The Slaughter of Sorcery, my note on this one was, if you want to make sure you at least win one game at a tournament, make sure you play against Khorne and take Slaughter of Sorcery, which says when the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there are no wizard units on the battlefield. So if you brought wizards and you're playing Khorne, make sure you bomb them before the end of the game, because there can be no wizards. Doesn't say friendly or enemy.
No wizards.
So no wizards. So you need to kill your own. But, if you play against a Khorne guy, or a Fire Slayers guy, you're going to get that grand strat. So, there's maybe some play there. Not.
I like it for Khorne too, because like you want to go kill their heroes.
You look at Khorne and you take the wizard finders.
Yeah.
You're going to be hunting. You're going to be hunting those guys down.
Yeah.
And you're going to be doing bad things to sorcerers.
Now, the Magic Made Manifest, this is where it comes into Bill's prediction, so I'll read it and see if y'all catch it before Bill says what it is. So when the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there are 2 or more endless spells or incarnates on the battlefield that are controlled by or bonded to friendly units.
Hey, wait, what did you say about incarnate? Because there's only one available right now. Did you pluralize that on your own?
I did not.
Oh, so we might be getting an incarnate.
Yeah, and in the 2 pages of lore they gave us, they talk about incarnates.
Yes.
Right?
It's always used in the plural in this book when it's referring to the abilities. So guaranteed in that box that we're going to get here shortly, there will be another incarnate.
God, I hope so.
And it's going to be cold based.
Yeah.
The last one was a desert kind of dude. So he's going to look really silly with the paint jobs most people gave him.
What I would really like is for them to release a good amount of terrain.
Yeah.
That is based in the cold.
Me too. Oh God. I'm
right?
dying. I am dying for some, if all they did some, like those old vacuform terrain, the blast craters, which I still have, and I still need to work up one of these days. But even if they did that with just, snow ridges and things like that for when you're doing Battle of the Pass or a couple of the scenarios in this book that actually want you to use the terrain to funnel the battle into certain areas, that would be so cool if they did terrain like that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, love it.
Like if they came out with something like mountains,
Yeah.
mountain caps, something like that. I mean, God, those would sell so fast.
Modular hills, mountains, stuff like that. Oh, I'd be just so into that. Oh.
Yeah. AOS folks would be buying it. Then you have the Lord of the Rings folks would be buying it too.
Who wouldn't?
Right.
Any game system would.
Yeah.
Any true scale / 28mm game system would be running to get those.
Be printing money.
Yep.
So then they'll get the battle tactics. You got 8 of them. They're kind of okay.
It's interesting. At the start of your hero phase, you must pick one battle tactic from the list below. Does that mean that no matter what you have to pick from this book, you can't take from your book?
That's what it reads like to me.
It does. And I'm wondering if they just invalidated all of the Battle Tome battle tactics with this one sentence.
One would hope, but
Yep. You must reveal your choice to your opponent. No more playing KG. So there's some really good ones. I picked out, let me see, number 2 and number 4. Reprisal, I thought, was just such a nice... I love the way they worked this one in. The reprisal battle tactic is you complete this battle tactic if an enemy unit that destroyed a friendly general earlier in the battle is destroyed on this turn. I just love that idea that you can get so petty and so snarky that I'm going to go after that jerk that killed my general.
yeah.
I love that.
No, it makes sense. I think it's a fun one. It's the crackback, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that, and it comes up a little bit more with the battle plans, but Bill and I were talking, is that there's like a more narrative flair in this particular GHB than we've seen in the past.
Yepper.
I mean, I got the whole like Galatian veterans, we're bounty hunters and we're going after these prime targets. It wasn't as flavorful as this,
Right.
like going back and getting revenge, right? Some of them are just stupid easy to succeed. Magical dominance.
Yeah.
You complete this battle tactic at the end of the turn if a friendly wizard unit successfully casts one or more spells and none of the spells cast were unbound, right? So, I'm techless. I just auto get that.
Yeah, I
grand
pretty much-
strategy.
I picked that on turn 1 and win.
Yeah.
It's
Oops. Right? Or in Zinch. God, like that one's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's some that you can't have access to if you don't have a wizard. So
Right.
Magical Mayhem. You have to destroy a unit with damage inflicted by a spell or abilities of an endless spell.
Yeah, Corn's not taking that one.
No, Corn will never get that one. But some of the other ones are okay, But
I mean,
I do think it's interesting that it states you have to pick them.
Yeah, and I really want to get a read on that because some of these are very exclusive or exclusionary. One of them, Surround and Destroy, number 8. Pick 3 different friendly units on the battlefield. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn. If each of those units is wholly within 6 inches of a different battlefield edge, and 2 of them are outside your territory. Well, there's a couple scenarios where you're not going to be able to do that, period. So, okay. There's 8 of them.
Yeah.
You only need 6. So, obviously, you can throw away a couple, but I hope these don't invalidate all. I hope that's just a misshapen sentence.
Mm-hmm.
So, because otherwise, there's a lot of groups that are going to be sad.
For sure.
So, but by and large, they're good. Most of them are achievable depending on if you have the units that can achieve them.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounded super. 100% of the time you can do stuff anyway. So then they launch into the section of the book that is, I don't know why they put these 2 pages about battle ready in here. Seems like filler, but okay. Then they go into the battle plans. Again, we're not gonna hit these too hard. You can read through the scenarios, but as Josh mentioned, these have a lot more narrative aspect to them in that there's quite a lot of different things during deployment or during gameplay. There's one that if you run, you take mortal wounds.
Yeah. Love that one.
Yeah, it's just kind of, it affects both people equally. So there's one where basically you're springing the trap. It's springing the trap where after setup, you roll a D3, and that's how many units you pick up off the board, and then are going to set up in an outflanking position later on, or at the end of turn 1. So it's going to make deployment really, really interesting in a battle like that.
Yeah.
It's going to be super terrain dependent. So if you are a TO for events, really look at these scenarios.
Yeah.
And how the terrain can have a very disastrous effect on the outcome of the game, depending on how you set your tables up. So keep an eye on that.
Yeah, they're so fun in the sense that they force movement. They force you to not just castle, right?
Yeah.
And even some ways, like spreading yourself too thin can be a problem. Limited resources, I thought was a fun one where if you hold the objective for 2 turns in a row, then you can no longer score it for the rest of the game. So then you're like, well, do I just burn out this point, or do I score, run to the next one, score, so on and so forth? Or every step is forward. Whenever you charge, you count as additional model for contesting objectives. So they have these things where they're trying to push people forward into the game.
Yes. I think they really wanted to start getting rid of some of the castling.
Yeah.
That's been going on, and how really either Castle Turtle or just all out smash was the name of the game in the last General's Handbook.
Yeah.
Now I think they're trying to foster a few different play styles with these scenarios. And honestly, they look good. I'm sure there's a couple that are, badly broken, and someone will figure that out. But, we'll see. Right now, they all look pretty even and fair to me. But again, the table setup, the terrain setup can materially affect a couple of these scenarios, and you really need to look at that and maybe let the players redo the terrain if you choose that scenario to play.
Yep. They look real fun.
Yep.
These look really fun.
The big call out next is page 46 is the Pitched Battle Publications, which gives you the list of all the books and tomes that are applicable from this point forward when this book came out, so you'll know what books you can use. And you know, it's always nice of them to do something like that. I don't see a lot of stuff on here that's left out. I noticed they still have Wrath of the Everchosen in here, even though the other books have come out. Wrath of the Everchosen is still an option. So,
Or all the Broken Realms.
yeah, all the Broken Realms books.
So, I mean, that all the pitch battle stuff that's in there still applies, of course, has been eroded and updated through the battle
Sure.
scrolls. So
Yep.
make sure you filter that information. After that is the endless spells. And
You want to hit the big ones that changed a lot?
yeah, this, I'll tell you my favorite change. I mean, Geminids we talked about, it's like busted. But my favorite change was the Aether Void Pendulum.
Yes.
Because it moves back and forth now.
Wow.
You mean it swings like a pendulum? Like it was that easy?
Oh my God, that is so crazy.
And it does D6 mortal wounds again. So
Yeah.
Ooh, boy.
Yeah, and it just goes back and forth, which is, you know, sort of pendulum-ish.
Yeah.
So Chronocogs is you'll want to read that. We're not going to just sit here and read it out. If you are a Chronocogs user, read it again.
Because it got worse.
It's not what you think it is anymore.
It weren't good no more.
Yeah. Emerald Life Swarm changed a little bit in that it had you heal for D3 wounds. If there's not enough wounds, you add models as long as combined wounds characteristic of D3 or less. So makes Emerald Life Swarm a little bit more useful.
Yep.
The Geminids is, of course, predatory. After this endless spell has moved, roll a die for each unit that has any models that it passed across, and for each other unit that is within 1 inch of it at the end of its move. On a 2-up, that unit cannot issue or receive commands until the start of the next hero phase.
So busted.
Or, screw you, OBR.
It's so busted. It's so good.
It is so bad.
The worst part about it is like, what, it's like 60 points or something? It's like dirt cheap.
Yeah. I don't know if they changed the points in here. No, they didn't. It is cheap. It only moves 8 inches, so it's not going to like go over a whole army, but its effects can be disastrous.
Oh, yeah.
So you'll want to turn that one wild. So
Some people are pretty excited about the Malevolent Maelstrom as a possibility.
Yes.
Right? Not as like because I think it's super cheap. I think it's like
Yep.
30 points.
Yep.
So the thing about this is like its superpowers is what it does, right?
Yeah.
So every time a spell is cast within 12 inches of it, you start increasing a value, put a dice next to it from a 1 to a 6. And also whenever a model is slain within 12 inches of it, you increase the value as well, right? So you get to 6 pretty quickly most times. Whenever it's a 6, it's removed from play. And when it's removed from play, add 6 to the value beside it for each unit within that number of inches equal to the result suffer D3. Wizards suffer 3. So
It's a time bomb.
yeah,
You know,
it's a time bomb.
it's a I don't care who you are time bomb because it's everybody, friendly and enemy.
Essentially how I imagine it happening is like they cast it and it just like swirls across the battlefield and as like things die, it like eats it up and it just like gets more powerful until boom. And like, so 30 points, you just keep hurling that thing down. You've got enough Andorian locuses, that kind of stuff, you know, or loci, you'll get there.
You'll get that 6 up there. Prismatic Palisade. If you hate shooting armies, this one's for you. After this endless spell is set up, and at the start of each subsequent hero phase, every hero phase, roll a die for each unit within 6 inches of this endless spell. On a 3-up, it cannot make shooting attacks this turn. Then add 3 inches to the range of this ability at the start of each battle round after the turn in which the endless spell was summoned. So you're going to be doing this every turn. So very quickly, that thing's going to have a 9-inch range, a 12-inch range, a 15-inch, an 18. Pretty soon, there's going to be no shooting on the board. So you're going to want to unsummon that if you're a big-time shooter guy.
Yeah, it's the 3+ is the problem that gets me, you know.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it should be automatic, you know.
I think that'd be just too debilitating to armies that use ranged.
Yeah, but most of the ones that use range, well, aside from KO, like if you're against Lumineth, they can dispel it, you know. It has
But that's the only one. Most of the other shooty type armies don't really have great dispelling.
yeah, but they can fly away from it for most time.
It's true.
Most
I
part,
mean,
yeah.
I'm looking at it like from Sylvaneth. They should either be able to either dispel it or get away from it with their movement shenanigans, so it really shouldn't hurt them that much until it starts getting to that 24-inch range, and then
That's still only a 67% chance that you'll not be able to shoot.
So we'll see.
Purple Sun did not change.
Boo.
I don't think swords changed.
And some of these are reprint. Not every one of these changed. Some of them they're so drastically changed from the card that came out with them that they keep reprinting them in the handbook. And one thing I will say is these models for the endless spells are so cool looking. God,
They always have been, huh?
oh, so good, so good. So that's pretty much the General's Handbook.
Yeah, definitely go through and look at all the changes to these endless spells. There's not a lot more, but certainly you need to know about them. And then I think Geminids are going to get a point hike. I don't think they can stay where they are as they are, or it needs to change to like a 3+ or something.
Yep.
Yeah, Pendulum's good now. Pendulum, I think, is perfectly fine.
It does what it says on the 10 now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
2+ D6 mortal wounds, and it can move back and forth instead of just moving in one direction.
Right.
So I like that. I like
do
that
too.
a lot.
Yep.
So I'm optimistic for what this General's Handbook is going to do. I think having it for a year is going to make it really interesting because there's so many like ways to play around with it that I think we're going to see a massive like ebb and flow in terms of competitive play.
Yeah.
Right. You'll certainly see folks who are like, well, they're going to top with this army, but there's so many tools that other armies are going to be able to combat against that. Right.
I want to say that they dialed this one back quite a bit, and they have worded just about every rule in this handbook so much better than the last one. It's almost as if a completely different team wrote these books.
Yeah.
Because the last one was simply, here's the deal. We want to sell a lot of battle line units because they're not hot sellers right now. So we're going to emphasize battle line units in the last two General's Handbooks. What actually ended up happening was you made the good better and the not so good far worse. And you actually took them out of play. And I don't even want to say it's consequence, and it's unforeseen consequence. They had to know at the time of writing that if they didn't play test certain units, then, bad on you. You should have really looked through all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas in this GHB, it's so generic. It is so, if you have a wizard who is less than 9 wounds and not named, boom, it's a locus. And you get to play all of the locus stuff.
Yep.
If you don't, you have this whole other section you play from. You're not out of it.
Yeah.
As opposed to the last General's Handbook, where if you didn't play one of the featured armies, yes, you can play the game, you can win, you can do these things. However, the struggle was real, and it wasn't even remotely fun.
Yeah.
So, whereas this book, the way they went into planning and future-proofing it and wording it so that it doesn't have this built-in manipulation. I love it. I just love it. The guys who came up with this one, good on you guys. You did well.
I'm really just kind of thinking about it again. I think KO has a good shot into this one too.
Yeah.
The mobility, the shooting, so you can focus down their wizards, right? And granted, we do have the new updated Lookout Sir. So I thought that was great. So you don't just murk all the heroes. They don't have any wizards, so they can benefit from Slaughter of Sorcery.
Yeah.
And they play well into, eliminating the tech pieces, right? As long as you can get within the right range. So I think they could have some fun in this one. I think the sort of, call them middle-class Magic users.
Yeah.
The ones who are like, oh yeah, I have like a couple wizards. I don't know if they're really going to be as great a benefit now. I'd say you may need to play them if that's a situation where you've got like, I've got a 2-cast wizard and a 1-cast wizard, and that's it. May need to play them more as like anti-magic than anything else. Like try to pop off a couple spells here and there, but use that to like burn through their resources or something. But definitely want to use them to be anti-magic.
And, I think that just built-in wording that says basically you get to choose between an extra cast, an unbind, or a command point. It gives those middling, those armies that have just a few spellcasters to get some buffs out. Mm-hmm. It gives them a honest chance at a level playing field, as opposed to you don't want to try to go toe to toe with Teclis.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not going to work. You're not going to go toe to toe with Saint Sylvaneth, these armies that just eat magic for lunch. Mm-hmm. And so, play it accordingly. Use your stuff, like you said, to unbind. Use it defensively. Don't try to go on the offensive when you don't have a hope in heck of being that person, that thing. So I like the book. This is the first General's Handbook in a year and a half that I've actually said, this is good. This is well thought out.
Yeah, agreed.
Scenarios are well done. So, yeah, I'd say massive, massive props for this book, especially when I saw that it was going to last a year. Oh, I was terrified. I was like, if this is another General's Handbook like the Galician garbage,
yeah,
the game is literally going to die for me.
Yeah.
Not, die. But it's just, I will not play it. It will not be fun. And this, I don't see this as being overly advantageous or disadvantageous to anybody. Everybody gets to play both sides.
Yeah.
So
I think it's going to be a fun one. I'm excited to see how things shape up, how things move. Yeah. Now it's just about getting games in, right?
Yeah.
Trying
Now
to play
it's,
it out.
just trying to figure out how the interactions work.
Yeah.
And if it makes sense to just get and dust off all those endless spells.
I mean, some of them, yeah. I mean, like Geminids for now. Yeah, you want Geminids.
Sure.
If you can cast it and you've got the 60 points, you probably will take Geminids.
Mm-hmm.
The Pendulum, such a fun model. Yes. Now it actually can do something on the battlefield.
Does things that are impactful.
Yes. Yeah. Very impactful, in fact.
I love the Prismatic Wall. Again, still more. There's just a lot to like now.
Yeah.
And we'll see how it pans out. This could be the year of Magic in both forms, Magic and anti-Magic.
Yeah, definitely anti-Magic.
Yep.
That's where my money is.
Yeah, I think so.
So that does it for lore, folks. And well, I think you've made it to the end of the show.
That's right.
So if you made it this far, we're about to tell you what you can do to enter to win a prize.
To win stuff. And what is this stuff? Well, let me give you a quick overview of some of the stuff. I'm not saying what all's going to go out to what, but you will win a prize if you get picked. Let me see. In here, there is some of the original Age of Sigmar coasters from way back when Age of Sigmar came out.
Holy cow.
I have a set of the coasters. They're all Stormcast. So if you hate Stormcast and you just want to put your cold beer on them, this is what you want. There is the Store Anniversary Edition templates and markers set, which is kind of cool. I mean, I thought that was a really neat little thing they did. It's super heavy.
Yeah.
So, there's going to be I only put a smattering, but there's going to be some generic small models in there, as well as there's going to be some limited edition models. Those gray collector type boxes. I didn't go to the shed and get any of those out. There is a set of, which GW dice are, oh no, this is there's two different GW dice bags. There is Store Anniversary pins. There is a collector's edition of Dawn of Fire, Throne of Light, number 1850, and number 1951 of Dan Abnett's Pariah Collector's Edition. And then as a joke, there is a Space Marines 2023 calendar. Okay, so here's the deal with the calendars. I hardly ever buy the calendars for the calendar.
Yeah.
I buy it for the art that I stick up on my walls. And so that's kind of why I always buy two calendars, so I have two to cut up.
Yeah.
So I'm giving one away. And then there will be other stuff. If you're a patron, there is a set of Badger airbrushes. And there is a Sotar Fine Detail brush and a Patriot 105 Extreme, the one with the Mac valve. Both of them are very nice airbrushes. I like the crap out of both of them. Because of my involvement with some different things, I end up having more than one, which is silly.
Yeah.
So going to give those away to Patreons. And there will be some other stuff for the Patreons as well. But that's just a smattering of what could be in there. There's going to be miscellaneous pins and patches and stuff that I pull out of the box. And books, probably books.
Yeah.
So how are you going to get these things?
Well, I think it's pretty simple. For anyone who's not a Patreon member and wants to try and get one of the prizes, you email the show and put your name in.
Oh, that's easy.
And so what's that email, Bill?
Rolling Bad Podcast, all one word, @gmail.com.
Send us the information. I'd also request that you send in your email if you do win, whether or not you want your name announced.
Yes.
Because we do respect folks' privacy. If you don't want your name announced, or if you just want your first name or your handle on Discord or whatever it is,
However you
please
want
tell
us to refer to you.
Yeah. Please let us know if you want us to name you, so to speak.
Yep.
We are putting a deadline on the emails of August 15th. So we want to give folks enough time to listen to the episode, hear how to get involved, and get those emails in. So after that, we will be recording that weekend following the 15th. So we'll be able to then announce the winner a week from there.
Yep.
So winners and all the wonderful things they're getting. So get on there, email us, Rolling Bad Podcast, Rolling Bad Podcast, all one word, @gmail.com. I don't know. You put all one word in the email address. That's weird, Bill.
No, don't put all one word. Okay, it's Rolling Bad Podcast @gmail.com. All one word.
Yeah.
With no punctuation other than the dots.
Yes.
Okay, anyway. Wow, that's just so wrong. I feel like a Simpsons episode. Yeah.
Every day of my life.
Yep. So that's how we do things. Now, Patreons, stay tuned for the After Dark. There's a slightly different thing because I already know who all of you are and I have most of your deets. So we're just going to draw a Patreon and give them stuff. So, like perhaps a set of airbrushes. Who knows?
This is a big thank you to all the listeners for all the support you've given throughout the years. I mean, I know I'm
6 years worth.
New to the show. Bill's been doing this for, at least 60 years, I hear. And only at episode 150, but
Hey,
you get them where you
3
can.
months,
So thank you so much for continuing listening. Please continue to give us your feedback, whether it's in Discord, by email, carrier pigeon, if you somehow know where Bill lives.
YouTube, like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe on YouTube. We're also available on Patreon if you want to help. Thank you so much for making it to 150 with us.
Yes. Super appreciate it. Love you guys. Really do. And we'll see you
After Dark.
The music in the show is used courtesy of Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com and is used under the Creative Commons license. The Rolling Bad Podcast itself is protected under the Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International License. Information for this license can be found at creativecommons.org.